How to learn listening skills in English? Part 1. A New Beginning. Maria was a young woman from Brazil. She had a big dream to speak English well. Maria knew some English words, but listening was hard for her. When people spoke English, it sounded fast and confusing. One day, Maria decided to change this. I want to understand English better, she thought. She looked online for help. There were many websites and apps to learn English. Maria felt excited but also a little scared. She found a nice app called English Ears. It had easy listening exercises. Maria started with simple words and short sentences. She listened to them again and again. At first, it was difficult, but Maria didn't give up. Every day, Maria spent 30 minutes on the app. She listened to words about colors, numbers, and animals. She learned to hear the difference between sheep and ship. It was fun, like a game. After 2 weeks, Maria noticed something. She could understand more words when she watched English videos. This made her very happy. I'm learning, she thought with a big smile. Maria told her friend Pedro about the app. Pedro also wanted to learn English. They decided to practice together. They met at a cafe and used the app. They listened to short stories and tried to understand them. One story was about a dog named Max. Max loved to play in the park. Maria and Pedro listened carefully. Then they talked about what they heard. Sometimes they made mistakes, but that was okay. They were learning together. Maria's favorite part was listening to English songs. The app had easy songs with simple words. She sang along, trying to copy the sounds. It was hard, but also fun. Maria started to recognize more words in the songs. At the end of the first month, Maria took a small test on the app. She was nervous but ready. The test had short conversations and questions. Maria listened carefully and answered. When she finished, she saw her score, 7 out of 10. Maria felt proud. She had made progress. I can do this, she thought. I will keep learning and get better at listening to English. That night, Maria wrote in her diary, Today was a good day. I am learning to listen in English. It's not easy, but I won't stop. I wonder what I will learn next. Part 2. New Challenges. As weeks passed, Maria got better at listening. She could understand more words and short sentences, but she wanted to do more. She decided to try something new. Maria found free podcasts for English learners. These were longer than the app exercises. At first, they seemed too hard. Maria could only understand a few words, but she didn't give up. She chose a podcast about daily life in England. The host spoke slowly and clearly. Maria listened to each episode many times. The first time, she understood very little. The second time, she caught more words. By the third time, she could follow parts of the story. Maria learned a trick. She focused on the main idea, not every word. This helped her feel less stressed. She also learned new words from the podcast. Words like who, waiting in line, and fortnight, 2 weeks. These were words people really used in England. One day, Maria heard a podcast about English food. The host talked about fish and chips, a popular meal. Maria got an idea. She found a recipe for fish and chips online. As she cooked, she listened to the podcast again. Cooking and listening was fun. Maria invited Pedro to try her fish and chips. They ate and talked about what they have learned. Pedro was impressed with Maria's progress. How did you get so good at listening? He asked. Maria explained about the podcasts. She showed Pedro how to find them. They decided to listen to one podcast episode each week and then talk about it. This became their new learning habit. As Maria listened more, she noticed something interesting. English had many different accents. The podcast host sounded different from her app, and both sounded different from American movies. This was confusing, but also exciting. Maria started to keep a notebook. She wrote down new words she heard and their meanings. She also wrote phrases that native speakers use often. Things like, "What's up?" and "How's it going?" These helped her understand casual conversations better. Sometimes Maria felt frustrated. There were still many things she couldn't understand. But then she looked at her notebook. It showed how much she had learned. This made her feel better. One evening, Maria was waiting for a bus. She heard two tourists speaking English. They looked lost. Maria took a deep breath and walked up to them. "Can I help you?" she asked in English. The tourists looked relieved. They'd asked for directions to a museum. Maria listened carefully to their question. She understood most of it. She gave them directions slowly, using simple words. The tourists thanked her and left. Maria felt amazed. She had just had a real conversation in English. That night, Maria wrote in her diary again. "Today I helped someone in English. It was scary but wonderful. My listening practice is helping me in real life. I will keep going." Part 3. Expanding Horizons. As months passed, Maria's confidence grew. She could understand more and more English, but she wanted to challenge herself even more. She decided to try watching English TV shows. Maria started with children's shows. These had simple stories and clear speech. She watched Peppa Pig and Dora the Explorer. At first, she used subtitles in Portuguese. This helped her connect the English sounds with meanings. After a while, Maria tried something harder. She switched to English subtitles. This was difficult, but it helped her match the sounds she heard with English words. She had to pause the show often, but she didn't mind. She was learning. Maria's favorite show was about a family in a small English town. She watched each episode many times. The first time for the story, the second time to focus on the words, and the third time without subtitles. It was hard work, but Maria enjoyed it. She learned many new things from the shows. She heard how English speakers use tone and stress to show emotions. She also learned common phrases like, "Give me a hand," "Help me," and "It's raining cats and dogs. It's raining heavily." Maria told Pedro about her new method. They decided to have movie nights together. They would watch an English movie with subtitles, then talk about it in English. This was both fun and good practice. One day, Maria found a website for language exchange. People could chat with native English speakers who wanted to learn Portuguese. Maria was nervous, but she decided to try it. Her first chat was with Sarah, a student from Canada. Maria put on her headphones and clicked the call button. Her heart was beating fast. "Hello," said a friendly voice. "I'm Sarah. Nice to meet you." Maria took a deep breath and replied, "Hello, Sarah. I'm Maria. Nice to meet you too." They talked for 30 minutes, half in English and half in Portuguese. Maria had to ask Sarah to repeat things sometimes, but she understood much more than she expected. After the call, Maria felt excited. She had just had a long conversation in English. She wrote down new words and phrases she had learned from Sarah. Words like awesome, very good, and hang out, spend time together casually. Maria started having regular chats with Sarah and other language partners. Each time, listening became a little easier. She was training her ears to understand different accents and speech patterns. One weekend, Maria went to an international food festival in her city. There were people from many countries there, Maria heard many languages, including English. She understood bits of conversations around her. It felt like magic. At one food stand, Maria met a group of tourists from Australia. They were trying to order but were having trouble understanding the menu. Maria offered to help. She listened to their questions and translated for the stand owner. The Australians were grateful. They invited Maria to join them for lunch. At first, Maria was nervous. Their accent was different from what she was used to. But as they ate and talked, she found she could understand most of what they said. That evening, Maria wrote in her diary, "Today I used English in real life again. I helped people and made new friends. My listening skills are getting better. I'm so happy I didn't give up." Part 4. New Goals and Achievements. A year had passed since Maria started her listening journey. She looked back at her old diary entries and was amazed at how far she had come. Now she could understand most everyday conversations in English. But Maria wanted to do even more. She decided to set a big goal to take an English proficiency test. This test would check all her English skills, including listening. Maria knew it would be hard, but she was ready for the challenge. To prepare, Maria created a study plan. She would listen to English for at least 1 hour every day. She found a test preparation app that had practice listening exercises. These were harder than what she was used to. They had academic lectures and fast conversations. Maria also started listening to English news podcasts. These were very difficult. The speakers talked quickly and used complex words. At first, Maria understood very little, but she kept trying. She listened to the same news stories on Portuguese websites to check her understanding. Pedro was impressed with Maria's dedication. He decided to join her in preparing for the test. They set up study sessions twice a week. They would listen to difficult audio clips and discuss what they heard. This helped both of them improve. As the test day got closer, Maria felt nervous but excited. She had worked hard. The night before the test, she listened to her favorite English song for good luck. It was a song she couldn't understand a year ago. Now she knew every word. The day of the test arrived. Maria took a deep breath and entered the exam room. The listening section came first. Maria put on the headphones and focused. She heard conversations, lectures, and news reports. Some parts were easy, others were very hard. After the test, Maria felt relieved but unsure. Had she done well enough? She would have to wait 2 weeks for the results. Those 2 weeks felt very long. Finally, the day came. Maria logged into the test website with shaking hands. She saw her scores and gasped. She had passed. Her listening score was even higher than she expected. Maria called Pedro immediately to share the good news. They decided to celebrate. They went to an English language movie at the cinema without subtitles. Maria understood almost everything. It felt like a dream. That night, Maria wrote her final diary entry about her listening journey. "Today, I achieved something I thought was impossible a year ago. I passed an English test. I can understand English in many situations now. But this is not the end. It's a new beginning. I wonder what I can achieve next." Maria's journey had taught her many things. She learned that small, consistent efforts could lead to big results. She discovered that making mistakes was a normal part of learning. Most importantly, she found that with patience and practice, she could overcome any challenge. As Maria looked to the future, she felt confident and excited. She was ready for new English adventures. Maybe she would travel to an English-speaking country or take an online course from an international university. Whatever came next, she knew her improved listening skills would help her succeed. Maria's story shows that learning to listen in English is a journey. It takes time and effort, but the rewards are worth it. With dedication and the right methods, anyone can improve their English listening skills, just like Maria did.
Part 5. New Horizons. After passing her English test, Maria felt ready for a new challenge. She decided to apply for an international online course. The course was about social media marketing. It was taught in English by teachers from different countries. Maria was excited but nervous. Would she understand the lectures? She remembered how far she had come and took a deep breath. "I can do this," she told herself. The first day of the course arrived. Maria put on her headphones and joined the online class. The teacher had an American accent. He spoke faster than Maria was used to. At first, Maria felt lost, but then she remembered her listening strategies. She focused on key words and main ideas. She took notes of words she didn't understand to look up later. By the end of the class, Maria realized she had understood most of it. The course had students from many countries. In group discussions, Maria heard many different accents. Some were harder to understand than others. But with each class, it became easier. Maria's favorite part was the guest speakers. Every week, a social media expert would give a talk. One week it was a British woman, the next an Australian man. Maria enjoyed hearing these different accents. She was training her ears to understand global English. For one project, Maria had to work with a team. Her teammates were from India, Spain, and Korea. At first, communicating was hard. Everyone spoke English differently. But as they worked together, it got easier. Maria was learning to understand world English, the many ways people speak English around the globe. As the course progressed, Maria found herself understanding more and more. She even started participating in class discussions. Sometimes she made mistakes, but her classmates were kind and helpful. One day, the teacher praised Maria's comment in class. "Excellent point, Maria," he said. Maria felt proud. She was not just listening in English now. She was thinking and expressing ideas too. Part 6. A Global Community. Inspired by her online course, Maria decided to join some English language communities on social media. She found groups for English learners on Facebook and followed English teaching accounts on Instagram. Every day, Maria would listen to short English audio clips shared in these groups. Sometimes it was a joke, sometimes a short story. The speakers came from all over the world. Maria loved this daily practice. She also found language exchange apps on her phone. These apps let her have short voice chats with people learning Portuguese. Maria would speak Portuguese for 5 minutes, then listen to English for 5 minutes. It was a fun way to practice. One day, Maria saw a post about an international podcast competition. The challenge was to create a 5-minute podcast in English. The topic was my city. Maria was nervous but excited. Could she do it? She spent weeks preparing. She wrote a script about her city's famous carnival. She practiced reading it aloud many times. She recorded herself and listened back. Each time, she tried to speak more clearly. Finally, Maria submitted her podcast. She felt proud just for trying. A month later, she got an email. Her podcast had won third place. The judges praised her clear speaking and interesting content. The prize was a ticket to an online English conference. At the conference, Maria listened to speeches from people all over the world. Some accents were hard to understand, but Maria felt confident. She knew she could learn any accent with practice. During a breakout session, Maria spoke about her English learning journey. People were impressed by how much her listening skills had improved. Some even asked for her advice. Part 7. Dreams Come True. A year after her online course, Maria got some exciting news. Her company was sending her to a conference in London. It would be her first trip to an English-speaking country. Maria was thrilled and a bit scared. As her plane landed in London, Maria felt ready. She had been listening to British podcasts to prepare. She knew it would be different hearing English all around her, but she felt prepared. At first, it was overwhelming. Everyone was speaking English. The taxi driver, the hotel staff, people on the street. Maria had to ask people to repeat things sometimes. But she understood much more than she expected. The conference was amazing. Maria listened to speeches, joined workshops, and talked with people from many countries. She even made a comment during one session. People listened and nodded. They understood her. One evening, Maria went to a pub with some new friends from the conference. The pub was noisy, and people were speaking quickly. A year ago, this would have been too hard for Maria. But now, she could follow most of the conversation. She even told a joke in English, and everyone laughed. On her last day in London, Maria took a tour bus around the city. She listened to the guide's stories about London's history. She understood almost everything. As she looked at the famous sights, Maria thought about her journey. She remembered the day she started with simple listening exercises. Now, she was using English in real life, in an English-speaking country. Her hard work had paid off. On the plane ride home, Maria made a list of new goals. She wanted to watch English TV without subtitles. She wanted to read an English novel. Maybe one day, she would even give a speech in English. Maria knew these goals would be challenging, but she also knew she could do it. After all, she had come so far already. With each day, each practice session, her English would keep getting better. As the plane landed back home, Maria felt different. She was no longer just an English learner. She was an English speaker, ready for new adventures in language and life.
Epilogue. The Continuing Journey. 3 years had passed since Maria first decided to improve her English listening skills. As she sat in her office, now a successful international marketing manager, she smiled thinking about her journey. Her desk was covered with notes in English. Her computer played an English podcast softly in the background. On her wall hung a certificate from an advanced English course she had completed online. Maria's phone buzzed. It was a message from Sarah, her first language exchange partner from Canada. They were still friends and practiced English together regularly. Sarah was planning to visit Maria's city next month. They would finally meet in person. As Maria typed a reply, she heard her boss call her name. There was a client from the United States on the phone. He had a question about their latest marketing campaign. Without hesitation, Maria picked up the phone and began the conversation in fluent English. After the call, Maria opened her old diary. She read her first entry. "Today I start learning to listen in English. It's hard, but I won't give up." She chuckled, remembering how difficult those first days were. Now, English was a part of her daily life. She watched English movies, read English books, and had friends from around the world, all thanks to her improved language skills. But Maria knew that language learning never really ends. There were still new words to learn, new accents to understand, new ways to express herself. And that was exciting. As she looked out her office window, Maria thought about all the future conversations, stories, and experiences waiting for her in English. Her listening journey had opened up a whole new world. With a smile, Maria turned back to her computer. She had an idea for an English learning blog. Maybe she could help others on their listening journeys, just as others had helped her. Maria began to type. "Welcome to The Listening Adventure. Let me tell you a story about how I learned to listen in English." And so, Maria's journey continued, not just as a learner, but as a guide, helping others discover the joy of understanding a new language. Her adventure in English listening had truly been just the beginning.